Y'all good? So glad to be here. So Melanie Burley, she's AKA. So Melanie tried. I got honored this year at the AKA convention, and Melanie was like, she said, yeah. She said, I'm wearing pink and green every single week. I said, I'm gonna show you how to wear pink and green, Melanie. And so I told her I had something for her, and then because when I hit her with the feather pocket square, she didn't know what to do. And then, of course, I hit her with the pink socks. She really was sick. So Melanie, this is what happens when you talk smack to an alpha. All right. So why are we doing this conversation with Tyler Perry? So when the board met here in Detroit in March, we were talking about speakers and coming to the convention. And so as we're sitting in the board meeting, I sent Tyler a text and I said, hey, our convention is happening in Detroit August 1st through 5th. I want you to come and speak, but I don't want you to come talk about Madia. I said, I don't want you to come and talk about movies like traditionally they do. He recently had done his Q&A on Twitter and the kind of questions he was getting on the press tour for Acrimony. I said, what I want you to do is to come to NABJ to teach. I said, and he said, really? I can take him to church and to school? And I said, yes. And the reason being is because even when I was a national student representative from 1989 to 1991, I always believed in the idea of entrepreneurship. And for me, one of the issues that I've always had is that too many of us have operated as workers and not owners. And so as we were talking, I said, I want you to come teach entrepreneurship, but also not just branding, but knowing your audience. And this year, when I was at Operation Hope's Global Hope Forum in Atlanta, T.I. was on a panel, and he was talking about monetizing our culture. I was at Essence, and Richelieu Dennis, the brother who purchased Essence Communications, he talked about monetizing our culture. And the reality is, African Americans are the trendsetters in America. We are the tastemakers, but other folks have made billions off of our culture. And what I've always appreciated about Tyler Perry is that black people made Tyler Perry rich. Tyler Perry, and this is important, Tyler Perry did not seek the validation of white America to cross over. He said, no, I'm going to cultivate my people, and that's the reason he has been successful as he has been. And so we wanted to have him come and teach this particular session, because moving forward, that's really where we have to be. Also sitting in front, and let me be clear, I want to warn y'all right now, don't freak out, because he is here to learn. He is here to learn about media, learn about various ideas. Put your hands together for Chance the Rapper. Many of you may have read or you have heard the song. He recently acquired the Chicagoist, the site that's in Chicago. That's a media site. And so, same thing. He is here to learn about media, to listen to folks in this room, to talk to folks. He and I, we're going to get a chance to sit down and chat later, because Where we are now in 2043, America is going to be a nation that has majority people of color in 2043. And all of us have been sitting here worried about a contraction in our business, worrying about how jobs have been losing, all those different things along those lines. And the reality is, we have to be thinking in the same way Frederick Douglass did with the North Star, the same way the first black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, in 1827, where they said, we wish to plead our own cause, too long have others spoken for us. The same way Ida B. Wells Barnett, the same way Robert Abbott did when he founded the Chicago Defender, same with C.A. Scott in the Atlanta Daily World, the same with Bob and Sheila Johnson with BET, and Alfred Liggins and Kathy Hughes with TV One, now with Byron Allen, of course, with his company, Entertainment Studios, buying the Weather Channel. This is about black people owning media and not asking somebody else for a job. So now you have the setup as to why we're having this conversation with Tyler Perry. We look forward to it, and I can guarantee you, when you come to Miami next year, you're going to see even more conversations like this. And so I fully expect us to have class. So the reality is this here, I'm done. Class is in session.
Oh, God bless you. I know they want to surprise you.
And they did. Telling all my business. God bless you, everybody. How y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? Okay. Good, good. Sit down. I want to take a moment to say thank you to the president and to the committee for having me here. Roland, thank you for calling, asking me to be here. I got to say, all right, turn your phone off. Who phone did that ring? I want you to know that I am an introvert, so I don't do a lot of these, but when he told me that it was the National Association of Black Journalists, I said I had to be here. For number one, you know, this country, free press is under attack. And I just can only imagine what black people who are in the free press are dealing with inside of this attack. So I wanted to come here to encourage you, to inspire you, to say thank you. You matter. What you're doing is important, and keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Now, me being an introvert, sometimes people think I'm weird. They think I'm so private. It's just that I'm a loner. I've got nothing to hide. I just like being alone. I like spending time alone. I want to be around a place where there are more trees than people. I don't like a whole lot of noise, even though that's hard when you have an almost 4-year-old, but I'm dealing with it. I don't talk a lot unless I feel like I have something to say, and today I feel like I have something to say, so that's why I'm glad to be here. I want you to understand something. You know, I see Chance the Rapper here, and I'm really excited because I'm a huge fan. But, you know, when we start talking about a masterclass, you have to talk about all the things that you have done and how you've done it and what you've done. And, you know, I've been in this business for 25 years, and the difficult thing for me is to go around saying what I've done. Now, listen, I love these hip-hop artists, man. I love y'all. You don't do this as much as the others do. They're like, you know, I be getting to the money. Everybody, man, hey, you know. They can brag, they can boast, they just talk about, yeah, I dropped the top off the Maybach. I'm not about to cut a hole in a $400,000 car. But I respect these guys because they have this vibrato. They can say what's on their mind. They can tell you, yeah, I did this and I'm proud of it. For me, it's a little bit different. I'm grateful to God for everything he's done, but being an introvert, I'm uncomfortable with talking about what I've managed to do, and truly, it has been incredible. It has been something that a lot of people have wanted to do, but for some reason, it fell on me to do. It's been tough, it's been a burden, it's been hard, but more than anything, I don't regret it. I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep climbing, I'm gonna keep believing for more from God. So, before I show you this video that I put together so I don't have to talk about myself, I showed you a video for a little bit, but before I do that, I want to tell you I've been on vacation, and I just literally got off the plane on Monday from a 24,000-mile trip around the world. I was on a spiritual vacation because I started to feel a little bit of unappreciated and taken for granted, and it's a horrible feeling, so I just went to spend some time with God. And I ended up in Australia at the Hillsong Church Conference, and I ended in Greece tracing the steps of the Apostle Paul. So if this speech takes you to church, I just need the believers to go with me, if you will. Is that all right? So take a look at this, and it'll show you what I've done. Benjamin Crump, good to see you, my friend. Take a look at this, and I'll be right back to you. Take a look, guys.
Okay, when is the play coming out?
It starts September 28th. We open in Chicago.
Okay, and are you in this particular play?
Yes, I am. It's going to be real interesting. But I think we're going to work it out.
25 years in this business has been such a blessing. It all started on the stage.
Okay, so the show's getting ready to start up again. I'm gonna go out at the end and say hi.
Before I knew it, these shows were selling out all over the country. We were setting box office records everywhere. People were coming in droves. One venue after the other, after the other, after the other, it caught on like wildfire, and all we could do was keep working. It was miraculous. We couldn't add any more seats to these theaters, so I had to find a way to reach more people. That way would be taking it from the stage to the studio to film and television. We were outgrowing these buildings faster than we could put sheetrock up. We needed more space. This is what happens when you dream, when you believe, when you have faith, when you pray, and when you work your ass off.
So I just finished taping House of Pain. Go to bed. Get right up. Start the whole thing again tomorrow.
And then all of a sudden I hit another level.
Is one of the most influential and prolific entertainers on the planet.
He's an actor, a writer,
director, producer, I'm gonna say it, entertainment mogul.
Written, directed, and produced by one man, Tyler Perry.
You have built from nothing, really, a really substantial business.
Went to all these different studios and networks, and I'm told black people who go to church don't go to movies, so we don't think your movie idea is going to work. It was a wake-up call, but it also, as negative and horrible as it was also a great thing for me, because those kinds of moments become fuel for me. They become the thing I need to say, I'll show you.
And no sooner than I had seen one vision through, there was another vision that came through that I had to press for, that I had to push for, that I had to go to the next level. And at the new studio, I dedicated the sound stages to legends of color like Ruby Dee, Cicely Tyson, and Sir Sidney Poitier. It was spectacular. Every moment I've appreciated, every show I've celebrated, every cast, every laugh, every tear. It's all been worth it.
Anything that comes easily may not be as appreciated as much as the things that you work hard for, that you pray for.
Father God, in Jesus' name we come thanking you for this day, this gift, this blessing, these people. Thank you for this moment. We will never, God, I say again, take this for granted.
Tyler Perry has revealed that he's opening a new Atlanta studio on the site of the closed Fort McPherson Army base.
Jeez. I've never seen this. I've never seen a person of color that owned their studio. He owns, okay? It's not like he's leasing. He owns. He built it. He hires folks all through Atlanta, makeup artists and wardrobe people.
That's a wrap on this crew, man. Y'all killed it. Thank you. Look at the crew. Look at the crew.
It's his, and he keeps expanding it. It just made me so happy.
I wanted to use my gift to not only make us laugh, but to make us think. I wanted to use film to not only entertain, but to let us know we don't have to wait for somebody to greenlight our projects. We can create our own intersections. I wanted to use my television show to not only make us laugh, but to show us that we don't just have to act in the sitcom, we can own the show and the network. I wanted to use giving and philanthropy to show us that we don't have to be at the end of the line waiting for a handout. We can be at the front giving the hand up. And I wanted to own a studio to show us that we don't have to wait for somebody to give us 40 acres and a mule. We can buy our own. Thank you for always reminding Hollywood that I'm your boy and y'all got my back. Thank you. Thank you. That is from working with black folks. I gotta tell you where all this started for me. When I was very, very young, my father was a subcontractor, and the man had an incredible work ethic. I talk a lot about it, but he had an incredible work ethic. And he would build these houses, and he was so proud of these houses that he would build. He was a subcontractor who had other people working for him, so he would come home on Friday, and he had just gotten paid. He had maybe $1,500, $1,800. He'd bring it to my mother. She'd divide up the money for all the other workers that he needed to pay, and he would get the rest. And sometimes he kept $800. And he was so excited about having this $800. Then he'd pack us in the car and say, come on, let me show you this house I built. We all go over and look at the house that he built, and it was a beautiful house. And then about 2-3 months later, we see that the house was sold, and he come in the house, he talking, he's like, yeah, you know, that house I built is sold. Mr. Charlie made $80,000 on that house. And I would look at, as a little boy, look at the $800 he made, and look at the $80,000 that the white man made, and I would say to myself, well, why won't you invest in yourself and start your own business? I remember telling him and my mother that when I got a little bit older. My mother was like, absolutely not. I have paid $116 a month for this house for 30 years. I am not mortgaging it. This house was $16,000. I will not be mortgaging. But got to understand where they came from. They came from a Jim Crow South. They came from a place where only white people did well. I mean, deep, deep South in rural Louisiana. And here I come, a generation after that, seeing it differently. So I took that lesson, I took that example into my business. I took it into what I was doing. I took it into building a brand. The brand. Well, what was my brand? My brand was Tyler Perry. So all I had was myself. I take a lot of flack for Tyler Perry's name is on everything. What the hell's wrong with him? Is he full of arrogance? Why is his name on everything? I was building a brand. I've never seen Walt Disney apologize for having his name above what he was doing. I've never seen Coca-Cola or Ford or anybody else apologize for putting their name on something. So I was building a brand. So there I was in this moment, building a brand. I started doing these plays. And there was a Mama on the Couch play on every corner back then. I mean, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was these kind of plays everywhere. And I had to do something to delineate what I was doing differently, because most of them just had two pieces of plywood and a sofa on the stage. Y'all have been to some of them, you know what I'm talking about. And they got their sound system from Rent-A-Center. So I wanted to take a moment to try and elevate what I was seeing. So I started working on this brand, and I started doing these shows, and people started coming. Now, the first 7 years, nobody showed up, but all of a sudden in '98, things started to change. And Roland told me not to talk about Madia, but I can't talk about Madia without talking about this moment. So then I get to Madia, this character, ridiculous, over the top, big dude, 6'6" in a dress. What's wrong with him? I heard it all. But inside of the Tyler Perry brand, there was another brand being built that I wasn't even expecting, a Madia brand. I saw Eddie Murphy do the clumps. I said, I'm going to try my hand at a female character and see what happens. And that's what I did. So I started doing the show, and people were laughing. But I was talking about serious subjects. I was talking about serious subject matter. I was talking about things like child abuse, sex abuse, getting over things, forgiveness, and family. And I realized that this ridiculous character and these jokes were the anesthesia to talk to our people about things that had been destroying us that nobody had else been able to do up until that point. So I realized the power of what was happening, and I had to focus. Let me tell you something, if you're going to build something special, you've got to focus. You've got to hyper-focus on what you're doing. Focus. So my focus was about getting this studio built and holding the door open for somebody to come behind me. So that was the focus. Inside of the focus, I'm doing all of these shows and doing all of these things, trying to get to the goal. So I'm working, trying to get to the goal. Stay with me. I'm going to tell you something. It's going to really bless you if you really catch this. And I'm not talking to everybody in this room. There's some eagles in this room who are doing some different things, who are trying to go higher. You are the reason that I'm here. Now, God bless the rest of you. I get it. I understand it. But if you're an eagle in this room and you are listening to what I'm saying, I promise you, if you take this advice, it will take you to the next level. Just stay with me for just a second. So there I am, focusing on what's happening in my life, focusing on the work. Madia, hello, how you doing? Silly, but funny, but messages that people were getting. And I started getting, this is before Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, before all of that stuff. God, I miss those days. But this is when I would just get letters from people. I got a letter from a woman who said, you did in 2 hours what my family has been trying to do for 12 years. My sister is leaving an abusive relationship because she saw Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I got another letter that I never forgot, sent chills up my spine. Even to talk about it sent chills. There was a woman who had gathered her children and brought them to a hotel, and she said, I was going to commit suicide. And I asked my kids, what do they want to do? Anything they wanted to do that day, we were going to do. They said, we want to see a Tyler Perry play. She went and found a bootleg and watched it with them in the hotel. Was laughing so much. She said, after I watched it, I felt like I had hope and I no longer wanted to kill myself. So I realized the power in what was happening. I was talking to blue-collar people like my mother and daddy and my uncle with his ashy kneecaps. My father had a third-grade education. My mother was taking care of kids at a Jewish community center. These were regular, good old folks who could not get in the Range Rover and go and get therapy for what was happening inside of their lives. But for some reason, God had blessed me with a way to make them laugh and give them a message to make them think, and at the same time, give them hope. I was focused. There I was, doing my thing, focused, paying attention. Then all of a sudden, started doing movies, started raising my awareness a little bit. And people shoot at the deer that they could see. Now you have to remember that this was a time when there was no Wakanda Forever. There was no Issa Rae, there was no Donald Glover. The UPN and the WB had merged. Y'all remember all those black shows on UPN? They all disappeared at the time I came along. House of Pain was the only show on television with a black family. And I was getting messages and critics saying, what is this? Why would you put fat black people on television? I said, are there no black people in the world? And I started hearing all of this stuff. And Spike Lee, somebody who's an artist, who I loved his work. He's a coon and a buffoon. Like, what? Like, what's going on? I'm focused. I see what's happening for the people, my people, the ones I grew up with, the people I know, and this stuff is happening. What is going on? But I kept my focus on where I was going. So in this, here I am, listening to all the naysayers, listening to all the haters, listening to all the back and forth, but at the same time, kept going forward. And I realized something. When I was hearing these stories about what's best for black people, I realized that this isn't something new. This has been going on for many, many years before we got to the planet. From slavery, from Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois arguing over what is good for black people. Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. Langston Hughes, sophisticated from New York City with class. Zora Neale Hurston wrote in Southern tones and Southern dialect. Her characters had Southern swirl and twang to them, which offended this highlight of New York City, which reminded me of Spike and myself. Spike, father, jazz musician, mother, an educator. He's an artist. Me, over here, coming from the South, telling stories, using the people that I knew as my inspiration. So what I realized was happening, somebody was trying to tell me that one shade of black is better than another shade of black. Black people, we've got to stop that ignorant ass shit. Gotta stop it. We gotta stop it. We gotta stop it. There is no other shade of black that is better than another shade of black. Your story, because you got educated, is not more important than my father's story, who had a 3rd grade education. Every story matters. That's why I'm so excited about what's happening now, because everybody gets a chance to tell their stories. Issa Rae and Donald Glover and Wakanda and Black Panther, and I'm just excited at where we are right now. But don't forget, there was a moment when that wasn't going on, and there I was out there by myself. But you're going to need this next thing. Remember what I'm about to tell you. If you're going to do something incredible, you're going to need this. You're going to need an emotional tolerance. An emotional tolerance, which says that you will stand and be okay inside of the madness. You will center yourself. You will stay focused. You won't respond to everything. You will pick and choose what you will respond to, because your focus will be in front of you. You're going to need an emotional tolerance. Listen to me. If you're going to make it to any level in this life, that's one thing you're going to need. Another thing you're going to need is a high-risk endurance. High-risk endurance. My mother didn't have that, because that would have meant if she had it, she would have mortgaged her house. She would have stepped out on faith. But when you have a high-risk endurance, you step out and you do things that have never been done before. But it's silly for you to expect to get something different if you're doing the same thing that you always done. If you want a different result, you've got to do something different. You've got to believe different. You've got to step out different. And you've got to have faith inside of your high-risk tolerance. I don't know how to have a high-risk tolerance to take risk and not have faith. Faith is tremendously important. I'm telling you, you can have a seed and plant it, but once you put the seed in the ground and water it, what else can you do to make it grow? God has to provide the sunlight. God has to provide the nourishments up under the ground for this seed to grow. So you've got to work hard, do what you have to, plant hard, believe, have faith, have an emotional tolerance, have a high-risk endurance, and keep going no matter what. And once you get to where you're going, I want to tell you this, because this is something that we do as black people. Don't run from where you came from. I don't know what that is with us. The first thing we do is we leave from where we came from, not understanding that every other culture in this world understands the power of us. They all advertise to us. They go in our communities and mine for our money. The first thing we do when we get our income is we leave the community and spend it outside. We don't spend it on us. Do not leave us and where we came from. I'm telling you, some of your blessings and some of the gifts that you are trying to get is right there among your people. I would not be here right now if it had not been for us. Learn the value of us, because I assure you, they already know the value of us. We got to stop looking outside of ourselves for heroes and become heroes to each other. There are questions that God asks, and I love the questions of God, which takes me to this point I'm talking about right now. You know, God asked a lame man, will thou be made whole? He asked Ezekiel, can these bones live? He asked Abraham, is there anything too hard for God? But the thing that he asked Moses is the one I want to bring to your attention. He said, Moses, what is that you have in your hand? We as black people have so much in our hand, but we don't use it. We don't use it. We are more powerful than this. We are smarter than this. We are more astute than where we are right now. The reason why you don't want to leave us in our community is because when I built all of these buildings that you saw in the video, every one of them that was built, they were all built in our neighborhood, black neighborhoods, where there were poor people. Even the studio. When the Army base left, that studio, it decimated the entire area because it was the lifeblood there. Me coming back in there, 89,000 cars have come through the gate since I opened it. So I'm bringing life back into it. But why is that important? In 2012, when Barack Obama was running for re-election. He called me up, he said, I'm gonna come down to the studio and do a fundraiser. I was like, oh my God. Don't you miss him? I miss him. Like, oh my God, you're gonna come to the studio. So he comes to the studio, Secret Service is set up, everybody's there. You've got the barricades along Continental Colony Parkway. I don't know if anybody knows in Atlanta, that's where Greenbrier Mall is. That's the hood. And the presidential motorcade is coming down the street, and you've got little black boys, little black girls waving flags, talking about, I see the president. But this is why it was so important that I was in that neighborhood, because they saw the black president go into the black man's studio, and they realized what I didn't as a little boy. All I saw was my father working for the white man. So the realization that they could have anything they wanted was so important. That's why we've got to build and stay among our own people. I'll never forget it. It was so powerful, so moving. Let me tell you something. I called everybody in this business, in the show business, that's doing something. I say, hey, come sit down, let's talk. I've learned something. Maya Angelou said it, when you learn, teach. Come here, let me talk to you about ownership. I call them all. 99% of them don't return my calls. But it's okay, because everybody doesn't have a high risk tolerance. Some people are comfortable where they are, and that's okay. But I do like my grandmother did, who would always go through the family looking for the one. Yes, sir. Are you the one? Yes, sir. Are you the one? Are you the one? And she knew that somewhere along the way, somebody was coming to change the entire destiny of the family. And for some reason, it fell on me. And for some reason, it fell on some of the people in this room. You are the one. You're sitting at a job wondering why you're there. You're sitting there worried. You're sitting there knowing that this is not all there is for you. You are who I'm talking to. The ancestors have prayed for you to be able to get. They prayed for you. They called your name for you to be able to do better than what you're doing right now. That you have an obligation to not only do it for yourself, but for all the ones who couldn't do it and all the ones who are coming. During this time, when I call them and I say, okay, fine, they don't have the high risk tolerance, it's okay. Back a few years ago, Oscar So White was trending, hashtag Oscar So White, and everybody's calling me, Tyler, you gotta do something. You gotta say something. All these black people love you, you gotta do something about it. I said, guys, you go ahead and do that. Because I respect everybody who's fighting for a seat at the table, but while you're fighting for a seat at the table, I'll be over here building my own. Because when you sit at somebody else's table, they can tell you what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat it. But when you sit at a table you built, the Bible says he will prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. So I need to talk to some table builders in this room. Some people who know that there is absolutely more than where you are right now. My prayer for you, my hope for you, is that you get to everything that God has for you. Don't leave this planet without going for it. Don't leave this planet without taking some risk, because you could be comfortable, but being comfortable is not being in faith. When you have faith, things are going to get uncomfortable. You've got to step out sometimes. And once you get to where you're going, hold the door open for somebody else. I keep looking behind me, looking to my left, looking to my right, going, are you the one? Are you the one? Let me show you what I've learned. Let me show you what I've learned. That's so important. And I want to close and I'm going to leave you with this, and I hope you guys remember what I said tonight. Emotional tolerance. High risk, endurance. That's right. Have those things. Tremendous faith. I want to leave you with this. About 6 or 7 months ago, we're at the studio and we're cleaning out one of the houses, and these houses were built in the 1800s. There's about 40 or 50 of them. President Roosevelt stayed in one of them. Colin Powell stayed in one of them. One of them had asbestos, so we sent the cleanup crew in there to clean it. And then after they left, our cleanup crew went in to clean. And they moved a cabinet that was built in the 1800s. And when they moved it, they found a piece of paper. They brought it to me. It was a letter, folded perfectly. I opened it up. It looked like it had been written yesterday. The date on the letter was October 29th, 1969. It was from a little boy who was 13 years old. He said, I'm writing a letter to the future. That's when I got tears in my eyes. He said, I know this sounds silly, but I'm writing a letter to the future. He described himself. He described where the country was. He said that Nixon was the president who was impeached. Interesting. He was describing all of these things. But the thing that got me the most is I'm writing a letter to the future. Well, looking at the date, I had only been on the planet for 6 weeks. I'm in New Orleans, little black boy. This little white kid is in Atlanta writing a letter to the future on an army base that was once a Confederate army base, established 20 years after the abolishment of slavery. This kid is writing a letter to the future. 48 years later, I find the letter that he written, and I realized I was the future he was talking about. I came here today to be your future, to be your letter, to be just an example of hope. Listen to me. I came from nothing. No one gave me anything. I worked and worked and prayed and worked and prayed some more and worked harder and prayed some more until things started to fall into place. I want you to understand something. My God in heaven, I want you to understand this. If I can't get you to get anything else, I want you to hear this. You can do it. You can do it. I don't know what your do it is, but whatever that is, do it. Do it. There are people whose destiny and fate are tied into you. I remember when people couldn't get work. Idris Elba gave him his first movie. Taraji P. Henson, there was no Empire at that time. Kerry Washington, there was no Scandal. Viola Davis, there was no How to Get Away with Murder. Sofia Vergara, there wasn't Modern Family. All of these shows, they were all coming through the camp because at some point they needed to work. And I was tied into their destiny at some point. Now, I'm not responsible for any of their careers. What I'm telling you is that had I not done what I was supposed to do, there are so many people who wouldn't have gotten what they were supposed to get. There are people tied into your destiny. Black people, you're special. I love you. I'm excited. Don't stop. Keep going. And thank you for this moment. God bless you.
NABJ, we can do better than that. Let's give it up for Tyler Perry. Dude, you're amazing, man. Have you guys been blessed? All I got to say is the doors of the church are now open. Everybody say amen, right?
Get the offering first.
He said get the offering first.
Get the offering first.
Have a seat, Tyler. Thank you so much. You guys have a seat. First of all, we are so proud
I like
of
them
you.
Pumas, man.
Hey, I'm trying to keep it with you. Let me hold something. First of all, I got to tell you that we are extremely proud of you, and I can speak on behalf of the African American race. I think I have some authority just a little bit today, but also on behalf of every black man, every black boy in this world. You have set the pace for us, and you have opened so many doors and given us confidence more than you will ever know, and I just want to say thank you. From New Orleans, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from New York, from the Bronx, from Los Angeles, Compton, wherever, you've done it, and I just want to say thank you. Let's give them another round of applause, everybody. Thank you. All right, so now it's time to talk. You know about ATL Shorty. He represents the A so well, pretty much owns Atlanta. That's what I like to say, and owns this world. For those of us who have sort of found ourselves, we think we found our purpose, we've done all that we could possibly do, but it's just not working out. How do you know when to hold and when to fold?
I'm not the person to ask about knowing when to fold, because I didn't know. I just knew down inside of me that this thing. Let me tell you something. If you wake up with it every morning and you go to bed with it at night and you can't shake it, and no matter what you do, you can go get a job, you can go travel the world, it's still in you, it's in your heart, it's in your presence. You'll never be able to shake it. So go for it. Go for it. And at least for me, if I wouldn't have I don't know where my life would be, man. I'd be so miserable. So I tell people, go for it. I'm not the person to ask about when to give up because I don't know. I'm relentless.
I love that.
Yeah.
So when people do say that, I've done everything, I'm hitting a brick wall, when do you know that that's your purpose or you need to try something else? Or do you just say, just keep going, like you said? Because my mother, of course, your grandmother raised you and was a big influence in your life. She always said that God would never put the desire in your heart if it wasn't his will.
Yeah.
What's your answer to that?
Well, that depends because there's some desires in the heart that ain't his will. but no, all I can tell you about is for me, like during the plays in the early days, I mean, man, it was tough. It was tough. I would go out and 30 people would show up. I had my rent payment, car payment, everything, ended up homeless out on the street. I was doing one performance a year. I would go get a job and they would tell me I couldn't take time off to go do the play and I would have to quit because I would hear the voice of God say, quit, step out on faith. But it was a different time for me that I didn't have a child. I don't know if I could do it if I had a family and a child that I was concerned about. But in that time, it was just me by myself. So if I'm going to sleep in my car, then so be it, because I'm going to see this thing through. And I love to be able to go to God and say, listen, I did everything I could. Now, where are you? When you lay that out like that, when you know you've done all you could, then what else can you do, right? Wow. So make sure that you have exhausted every effort to get there before you say, I'm done.
All right,
and don't let people, let me tell you this.
Talk about people.
Don't let people stop you. Don't let naysayers stop you. Even the people that you love. My mother told me, listen to me. My mother loved me more than anything on this earth. And my brothers and sisters will tell you I was her favorite child. And they will. And when the play didn't take off, I was at home, I was upset, and I had rented a van to drive on her credit card, Lord have mercy, and didn't make the money to pay for it at the play. And it was $300. She cussed me out left and right about that $300. And she said, stop doing these plays, you're never gonna make it. Go get you a job at the phone company, making you about $300 a week, and your life will be all right. But that was her vision for me. That was where she came from. But I know that what God had for me was way more than what the person that loved me the most had for me. Do you understand? As far as the vision goes. So years later, when I was doing really well and taking care of her, and got a new house, she said, baby, I'm so glad you didn't listen to me. Jesus. Right, yeah.
So how do you be true to yourself when it comes to branding and sort of not being concerned about people who may call you a sellout at some point?
Yeah, focus, number one, complete and utter focus, and realize the purpose of what you're doing. If what you're doing is helping and uplifting and motivating, and you see the purpose and you're clear about it, then you have to drown out the noise. That's that emotional tolerance I was talking about. You've got to drown out the noise to be able to go for what you're doing, because if you start to get swayed by people's thoughts and opinions and what they think and what they say, then you're going to end up in another direction. It's like the wind. It's a boat without a rudder or a sail. If you're trying to get to a destination, you can't get there unless you have the right sail and the rudder. So when the wind blows, you can stay on course. Otherwise they're going to blow you every way that they want you to go.
So what about having people in your corner? You didn't get here alone. You got here with the help of so many people.
Right.
How do you know how to sort of rid out the good versus the bad?
Well, it's not even good as bad as much as it is just people that are there for a season. Some people come in your life, I say this in my book, some people come in your life for a season, and you have to understand that. I think we get in trouble when we try to take people to levels that they are not ready for. They were only supposed to be with you for a moment to help you at this level of your career, and now it's time to graduate to the next level.
Preach, man.
No, really. It's time to graduate to the next level, but we feel so much loyalty and so much of a sense to them because they came along with me. But if you drag them up to that altitude, I don't know if you know anything about altitude sickness, but people who can't breathe at certain air will die. So you can't pull people up to another level that they're not ready to go. And listen to me, I've had to make some really hard choices with some really good people that I cared a great deal about, but I knew that they couldn't take me where I needed to be.
And does that include family?
Oh, for sure. For shit. Listen to me. I love my family, but everybody had to go get a job. Right. I am not the sole support. You are not going to count on me for everything. I'm not going to do everything for you. And I refuse. And I have family members. I said, listen, if you don't go to work, I'm cutting you off. I'm not giving you anything because I am not welfare. I'm not the government. And if I got to work and get up every day and go do what I have to do, then you have to do the same thing too, right?
Right.
And yes, and it's the same way with family. And some family members, you can't choose your family. You can love them, but you can love them from a distance too. And there are a lot of my family members that I've had to learn to love from a distance. They call me, I'm like, yeah, I'm here, you need something, let me know. But I can't have you in my life because you're toxic, you're poisonous. And there's nothing wrong with it. People's like, what's wrong with you? You're getting away from your family. The hell with you, I'm happy. I'm happy, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
So tell me this, how do you handle criticism? Of course, we have naysayers, those who don't believe in you. Somebody's always got something to say. How do you handle criticism?
Look for truth in what they say. Look for truth. And that's the problem with our president. He can't look for truth in criticism. Look for truth in what they say. If somebody's criticizing you and you see it, and listen, don't be afraid to ask yourself, is that true? Like when people say about you, Tyler, your shows are simple. They're simple. These plots are simple. They're so I'm like, yes, I know they're simple. You know why they're simple? Because when I was on tour, I would ask, who's the oldest person in the audience? Somebody in the balcony would say, I'm here with my grandmother. She's 85 years old. I say, who's the youngest? Somebody said, my daughter's here. She's 2. I was speaking across generations. I was speaking across class. So what I had to do was keep a very simple message and a simple plot and a simple twist. There were other people doing more complicated things, and that's great. I was building a brand and focusing on my people, so I was writing in a way that they understood. So when they say it's simple, that's true, right? But do you want to know why it's simple? Do you understand? So look for truth in it. It's like eating a steak. Eat the meat, leave the bone. Whatever's vitriolic and negative and horrible, leave it. But if there's truth, take it in. Store it away. Next time you do something, think about it. Go back and look at it. Maybe I need to pay attention to that.
Eat the meat and leave the bone.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you handle failure?
Haven't had any. Haven't had any. And I tell you, and listen, that's not bragging. I'm gonna tell you the truth. The first show, when it didn't take off, I was devastated, broke, hungry, homeless. People would think that's a failure, but it was a setup for the next thing. And everything that I thought was there to make me fail and destroy me was something that made me stronger and better. So failure is a prism. It's how you look at it. So if you look at it as failure, something that broke you down or destroyed you, or if you look at it as something that became a stepping stone or a block to the next level, then you haven't had any either. Understand?
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. What about balance? He's schooling the hell out of me, isn't he? Hey, I'm just listening.
Hey, you answer the question.
What about balance when it comes to making money, keeping your money, and making your money work for you?
Well, first of all, you have to respect what it is. You have to respect money for what it is. And I've always reinvested in myself, even when people wouldn't. This is the high risk tolerance I was talking about. If I made a bunch of money, I would put it back into myself. Even when we started doing the plays, if we didn't make money, I'd tell the promoter, keep it. Keep it. Just as long as I can pay my rent, we'll go on and do the next show. No, you keep the money, we'll do it until I started to make it. If you're gonna make money your sole respect, you're gonna be in trouble. So, and you have to respect it, and you have to put yourself around people who know what you don't. When I started to make a lot of money, I knew that my sister couldn't keep doing my taxes. I mean, my sister who didn't have an accounting degree, she just read questions and read a book and went to H&R Block and asked them questions. I mean, so as you elevate and as you grow, you have to find yourself, that's what I mean, going to the next level with people. And I'm not afraid to say what I don't know. I'll be in a boardroom with people sitting around, talking to them, having all kinds of conversation. And if I don't know something, I say, excuse me, you need to explain that to me. And I don't care if they think I'm stupid, but because I'm gonna know what you mean after it's all done. Do you understand?
I understand.
Yeah, so another thing that's important about money, because I look at some of these kids, man, they blinging and flossing and they ain't got no health insurance. You have to know how much money is and what it's worth. I see people who've had tons of money and go broke because they don't know the worth and the value of it. And they're doing all kinds of crazy things with it on Instagram and making it rain and all this other stuff. But what they don't realize is the people that is in control of their money is watching them too. And they're going, well, hell, you out there spending money like that, you won't notice if I put about $200-300 in my pocket. So it's whatever image you put out there about how you feel about money is what is going to happen with you.
All right, 2 final questions. You're so real. How do you stay humble? What keeps you humble?
That's, for me, it's God. Knowing that I could not have done this. I look at that tape, man, I get so emotional because I'm like, I could not have done this. All I did was work really, really hard and believe, right? So how can you be arrogant and cocky when you know that you didn't do it? When you know that God did it, and the Lord giveth, he could take it away tomorrow. How can you be arrogant inside of that, you know? So I'm humbled by it, and I'm grateful for it. Man, I tell you, I'm grateful.
And how has fatherhood impacted your brand?
Yeah, this kid, man,
Yeah.
this kid. I've never known love like this in my entire life. And I mean, this, and he looks so much like me that when, I know you guys never seen the picture of him, but that's on purpose. But when I'm talking to him, I'm healing myself as a little boy. When I grab him, I say, I love you, I'm telling the little boy that I love you. We were just on vacation, he said, Papa, look, and he'll run, he'll dive in the pool, something I'm still scared to do. And he'll come up and he'll look for approval from me. And I make sure I'm light up so that he knows that his father sees him. To see him, I was a kid who was never seen. So to see him and to know that he's loved is so important. So he's incredible, man. He's been a miracle in my life. I'm grateful for him every day.
All right, now, yeah, let's give him a round of applause.
How old is he? Almost four.
So tell us this. What projects are you working on? Because I'm ready for the TP plug, of course. I know you got a movie coming out in November.
You ready for what?
Tyler Perry, the TP plug. That's what I call it.
The what?
The TP plug. Tyler Perry.
The TP plug? TP plug, I don't know what that means. Explain that to me.
Tyler Perry, I want you to plug, I want you to tell us about
plug.
your projects that you have coming up.
Oh, you want me to plug it? I get it. Okay, thanks.
Let me tell you something. See, we had a good moment back behind the stage. I knew he was going to find a way to get me, Tyler.
Yeah, that's all
Tyler
good.
Perry, what you want to call it?
Right now, this Nobody's Fool with Tiffany Haddish is coming out. And
Whoopi's in it, right?
Listen, Whoopi Goldberg, there's a special cameo in it that's a really, really amazing surprise. Tika Sumpter, Omari Hardwick. And it's a rated R movie, very different from me because I let Tiffany just go off. It's extremely funny.
Is this your first rated R? Your first rated R movie?
No, Acrimony was a rated R movie.
Okay.
Well, so it's the second one. But what I'm excited about is that where I am in life right now, I'm 48 to be 49 this year, going into 50, and as I said, holding the door open for somebody else. That's what I'm excited about now. I'm excited about all of these people coming up, and if I could just get a few of them to get together, like Oprah and I came together, if I can get a few of them to get together to start to work as one unit, like they've done so much in Hollywood, it would change the game. So my hope and purpose is that I'm able to do that.
All right, and I'm glad to say that two of your closest friends, Oprah and Gail, they work for CBS News. So we'd welcome you too if you want to do something with us.
CBS?
CBS, yes, we are in the house. Let's give
very
Tyler
much.
Perry another round of applause if we can.
Thank you.
And don't forget to use the hashtags Tyler Perry NABJ and hashtag NABJ 2018. TP plug. I know not to say that again. I thank you so much.
No. It's all
Thank
good.
you so much.
It's all good.
Roland is stepping up. What's up?
Right, so there's one last thing. Take a seat. One last thing I want to say that while he's here. Because it also speaks to what we're trying to do here in NABJ. So in December, TV One announced they were canceling my show, News One Now. The last episode was December 21st. We had 4 years of this daily show. And as the CEO was talking to me about why they canceled the show, I was already saying who I was going to call, literally walking out of the meeting to launch my own show. And so we go to January, and I said, I'm going to launch this digital show. So then the State of the Union, Trump is speaking, and then Maxine Waters said, I'm not going. And I said, you know what? We're going to do a State of the Union special. We're going to live stream it, and we're going to do it while he's speaking. January 30th. So I go to the makeup chair, and I walk out of makeup, and my phone rings. And I go, we're an hour from doing this live stream. Now, mind you, I spent my own money, got my own cameras, my own lights. I called a church in D.C. Within 10 seconds, the pastor said yes, booked all the panels. We did all of this literally in 10 days. Wow. So phone rings, and it's Tyler. I need y'all to understand, I've met Tyler, we've taken pictures, I've seen him, but we had never actually had a conversation other than just, hey man, how you doing, how's it going? And I actually have never even interviewed him about any of his movies. And Tyler says, he said, man, I'm sitting here watching your clips on YouTube. And he said, you are our voice. On something, and I said, well, Tyler, as a matter of fact, I have an idea that I'm working on. And he then began to encourage me about it, and he said, I'm working on this, and I'm working on that. He said, here's my number, lock me in, I've got your number. And again, I don't know how Tyler got my number, because we never exchanged numbers. That was January 30th. Then I get asked to rejoin the board as Vice President Digital. It was March 24th when I'm sitting in a board meeting when I text him. But the point of all of this is that with all stuff that he's doing, he called to encourage me to continue to do what I do. And that is why NABJ is here, is because we've had founders and members. When Vernon Jarrett would greet me at the convention, he would hug me, give me a kiss on my cheek and say, my hero. I was a student. So I want all of you folks who are new members to understand why this convention matters.
Say that.
Because it is to encourage you, it is to help you, it is to teach you, and I say NABJ is literally your therapy session for the hell you gotta deal with for 50 weeks. And that 51st week, you can't wait to go to the convention, because when you are in this sea of blackness, when you are in this sea of love, it matters. And so we're going to do this here, and I saw him do it with Bishop Jakes. So if you are not a believer, that's fine. The prayer's going to still cover you. But we're going to close this out, and I want Tyler to pray over this audience to close this out.
And Tyler, before you pray, so we can make sure we do our homework, don't forget the hashtag, and also Chance the Rapper is in the house. We're very proud of him as well for what he's done to our community. So thank you very much. Take it away, Tyler. Okay.
Father God, it is with great reverence that we stop at this moment to say thank you. Father, we take none of this for granted, but we bless you for your anointing and your presence and your gifts. God, we thank you that you have blessed us. We thank you for your kindness. We thank you for your mercy. God, we thank you that we are standing where we are. Father, I pray right now that the words that were spoken here today will become seeds of life to your people, that they will grow up over their minds and take them into places that they've never been before. I pray that the Holy Ghost will continue to comfort and lead us throughout these dark days, God. We know that you are always the spot of bright light for us, no matter how dark it gets. We thank you for this convention, God. We thank you for a moment to fellowship one to another. You said where two or three are gathered, you'd be in the midst. So right now, God, we thank you that you're present here, that you are hearing us, that you every request that is in this room, God, you are making a way for. We thank you right now for this moment. Again, God, we'll never take it for granted, and we marvel at who you are. Bless us. Keep us safe. As we travel home, we travel in your name. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 God bless you.
Tyler, thank you.
Yes,
thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely.